Carousel of Life, Day 27, Marinette and the Agrestes. A Miraculous Ladybug Fanfiction written based on the Adrinette April 2019 daily prompts. If you missed any of the previous chapters, you can find links to them in the description box below or click on the card in the upper right corner for the playlist. Now let's take a ride on the Carousel of Life. Tuesday evening, Marinette had just begun drawing a pattern for a new project on tracing paper when her phone lit up with an unknown number. Hesitantly, she lifted the phone and stared at it for a few seconds, considering whether to answer or not. She had all her classmates' numbers saved, and the few calls she received from unknown numbers were usually spam. It was a Paris area code, though. She couldn't fathom what, but it could be something important. Decisively, she swiped the screen to answer. Hello? The voice that greeted her from the other end of the line sent her heart into a frenzy and she almost dropped the phone. Miss Dupain-Cheng?
Mr. Agreste!
Marinette stuttered, pasting on a smile to brighten the tone of her voice and starting to pace frantically across the floor.
How are you?
I am well, thank you.
Gabriel responded stiffly.
And yourself?
I'm good.
Ungrammatical. Marinette cringed.
I'm doing well, thank you.
She corrected in a high pitch. Attempting to compose herself, she silently took a deep breath and held it, waiting for Gabriel to explain his motive for calling. There was an excruciating pause in which Marinette could feel Gabriel lowering her respect score in his mind, before he spoke again.
I would like to invite you for dinner. Would tomorrow night do?
Yes,
Marinette answered quickly, her mind catching up to verify that she had nothing scheduled.
Thank you for the invitation. Will this be at your home?
Yes,
Gabriel confirmed.
7 p.m. sharp.
I will be there.
Marinette nodded even though he couldn't see her. The line went silent and she lifted the phone from her ear, peering at the screen to double-check that Gabriel had hung up before turning it off and heaving a sigh, feeling like her spirit had drained out of her body.
Oh my god, Gabriel Agreste just invited me to dinner,
she whined, vaguely directed at Tiki. She had grown used to voicing any thought that floated through her mind to the Kwami. The silence that answered was like a thorn in her gut, stabbing an already sensitive area. Tiki had been reticent since the day of the photo shoot, when she had decided to walk out on thin ice and all but reveal herself to Adrien. It wasn't an overt, silent treatment, but their dynamic had chilled down to sub-freezing levels and Marinette intuited that Tiki was not voicing her true thoughts. She could feel an aura of disapproval emanating from the small creature, leaving Marinette deflated and emotionally fatigued.
Tiki?
Marinette called out, the frustration that had been mounting for the past few days reaching a critical point. This could not go on. She wanted to fix this, now.
Yes, Marinette.
Tiki appeared over the corner of her computer screen. She was smiling, as usual, but Marinette couldn't shake the feeling of coldness that hung over their every interaction.
I know you're mad at me, but what's done is done,
Marinette stated, bluntly acknowledging the elephant in the room.
He knows. Can we just move forward?
Tiki frowned.
It's not too late to change his mind, Marinette. Isn't that why you went about it the way you did? There's still enough room for doubt. You could say or do something to clear his mind of the idea that you're Ladybug.
Her words came out biting as if she already knew it was a futile argument but was determined to give Marinette a piece of her mind. Marinette pursed her lips, then blurted out the truth that she had been shying away from confronting.
I never intended to change his mind. I know, Tiki snapped. You did it that way to deceive yourself into thinking that what you were doing was okay.
Marinette recoiled. The accusatory tone stung.
Why is it so bad for him to know that I'm Ladybug? Haven't ladybugs and black cats known each other's identities in the past? There's no guarantee that anything terrible will happen just because we know. You two knowing one another's identities creates a highly combustible situation, Marinette.
Tiki lectured, tone rising.
You're becoming too entangled. Any little thing could cause a domino reaction to destroy both of you and all the people you hold dear.
Ignorance served as a buffer between you, to keep your civilian lives away from your superhero lives, and to keep you from affecting one another too much.
Tiki,
Marinette sighed.
It's too late. Even if he forgot, I wouldn't. We're already too far into this, Tiki.
Tiki's eyes were hard, but she didn't say anything. They both knew Marinette was right. It was too late. The situation had changed and would continue to change with as much certainty as a tidal wave crashing down.
I really need us to be a team again, Tiki,
Marinette begged.
If the situation is as combustible as you say, isn't it even worse for us to be fighting?
The corners of Tiki's eyes drooped as they lost their fire. She came near and stroked Marinette's bangs, showing more warmth than she had in days.
We're not fighting, Marinette. I'm still on your side. I just wish you had thought this out a little better.
I did think it out, Marinette muttered.
All right,
Tiki soothed appeasingly, giving her bangs another stroke.
This isn't a complete disaster. We'll get through it. If we're careful, you and Shenhua could even come out stronger.
Thank you, Tiki, Marinette whispered. This was the optimistic Tiki she had missed. Feeling tears well up in her eyes, she cuddled the kwami to her cheek. Marinette arrived at the Agrestes mansion at 6:45, just in case. She fiddled with her side bag as she waited for Natalie to respond to the intercom call. Tiki nudged her through the fabric in a silent sign of moral support, and she couldn't feel more thankful that the cold spell had ended between them. The camera emerged from its portal, leery red eye fixing onto Marinette. "Come in," Natalie's disembodied voice commanded, and the gate clicked open. The walk up to the front of the mansion seemed very long. It occurred to Marinette that she had never actually been to the Agrestes mansion since she and Adrien had started dating. Although it wasn't her first time here, it was the first time she would be directly evaluated as Adrien's girlfriend, and that made her quake. She set her jaw and attempted to bolster her own self-confidence. She was Ladybug. She was the inimitable Marinette Dupain-Cheng. Gabriel was the type of person on whom humility and insecurity would make an impression of weakness and lack of qualification. The door opened as soon as she came up to it, and Natalie gestured for her to go in, leading her across the marble floors to the dining room. Now that she was here as a guest and not on a mission, Marinette could take the time to observe her surroundings. Everything felt so palatial. The size of one room was as big as the entire Dupain-Cheng apartment. Even sounds echoed differently, suggesting the phantom of a dignified and luxurious lifestyle that seemed foreign to her. Over it all, the painting of Gabriel and Adrien, wearing somber expressions, loomed ominously. She understood why Adrien felt so uncomfortable in this house. Upon entering the dining room, Marinette was surprised to find only Gabriel. He was already seated at the head of the table and, without standing, nodded at Marinette when she entered.
"Good evening, Miss Dupain-Cheng,"
he greeted coldly, waving at a seat that Natalie had pulled out for her.
"Good evening, Mr. Agreste,"
Marinette responded in kind, her voice as even and warm as she could muster. She slid into the chair.
"Thank you for inviting me to dinner."
She looked around.
"Adrien won't be joining us,"
Gabriel explained, taking note of her body language.
"He's training with Kagami tonight."
"Oh? I see."
Marinette had texted him earlier, "See you tonight," assuming he was aware of the plan, but now that she thought about it, he hadn't responded. It wasn't his usual night for fencing, so she hadn't expected him to be busy. She tried not to look confused as to why Gabriel would invite her to dinner alone. He smiled privately as if he were reading her thoughts and found them amusing.
"I wanted to have a chat with you, Miss Dupain-Cheng."
"Ah, of course," Marinette laughed, trying to exude a light-hearted attitude. "About something in particular, or—"
"I was impressed by the pieces you presented at the fashion show,"
Gabriel declared. The waitstaff began to bring out dishes. Salmon topped with a creamy mushroom sauce, asparagus, a small soup, and bruschetta, all in small portions.
"Thank you,"
Marinette forced out. It felt weird to be praised by her fashion idol. She didn't believe that he honestly found her pieces impressive by his standards, but accepting the compliment graciously seemed better than trying to deny his praise.
In fact, you first caught my eye with the derby hat you designed,
Gabriel went on.
The fashion show wasn't announced as a contest, but I did have a prize in mind for the top designer.
Huh? Marinette watched him with rapt attention, a faint smile on her lips, trying to look interested but not expectant. Gabriel leaned forward.
I would like to offer you a summer internship with Gabriel. Of course, you're still very young, so it would be mostly shadowing the designers and seamstresses to give you an idea about how the fashion design process works in the real world. But you would have a chance to design one piece to be featured in the winter line. Under senior guidance, of course.
Wow! Marinette's mouth formed an O. It was a dream opportunity, and at one point of time she would have accepted without question. Now, though, she immediately thought of her relationship with Adrien and how people like Anastasie would claim that she had only received the opportunity because of it. She bit the inside of her cheek. Thank you, sir.
So, will you accept?
Gabriel prompted. That is, Marinette interlaced her fingers at the edge of the table, feeling awkward. I would love the opportunity, sir, but I wouldn't want to cause any rumors in light of my relationship with Adrien. The last few words escaped with difficulty. It was her first acknowledgement of the fact that she was dating Adrien in front of his father. People are already talking about us, and someone was akumatized at the fashion show because of it. I wouldn't want people to question Gabriel's integrity. Gabriel raised an eyebrow.
Do I take this to mean you're declining?
Marinette bit her lip. Yes, she forced out. She didn't want to decline. She wanted the opportunity, but she could immediately sense that there was too much that could potentially go wrong. I'm sorry. I'm grateful for the offer nonetheless. Gabriel sat back, watching her appraisingly.
I appreciate your foresight and consideration for Gabriel. In that case, could I give you an alternative offer?
What is that, sir? Marinette asked nervously.
Come to the mansion every Thursday for dinner. I will review your projects and give you feedback, and you can ask me any questions you may have about the industry.
Marinette's mouth fell open and her eyes brightened. Yes, that would be fantastic, she gushed. On one condition. Gabriel's lip curled, amused at her pluck to propose a condition.
Oh? What's that? I'll have you know that it is not commonplace for me to make such an offer to a plebeian child such as yourself.
I understand, Marinette answered meekly. Please allow Adrien to join us for dinner.
All right, I accept your condition. You could consider it a family dinner.
He smiled wanly.
Audrey was correct. You are exceptionally talented, and I'm willing to invest in your artistic education, especially since you are dating my son and will be under public scrutiny as long as you continue to do so. We will begin next week.
It was a little sad that Gabriel was only willing to agree when there was a business perk attached, but this was going much better than expected. Marinette returned with a smile of her own. Thank you, sir.
Well, now that that's settled.
Gabriel waved at the dish set before Marinette.
Enjoy your meal.
The dinner finished over polite, meaningless conversation. Gabriel ate quickly, seeming unwilling to be held back longer than he needed to be, now that the main matter was out of the way. Once his dish was empty, he promptly stood to leave, just as a young man from the kitchen brought in a third plate.
Adrien should be returning at any moment,
Gabriel informed Marinette.
I assume you'll want to see him, but since tomorrow is a school day, I hope you'll understand why I insist you don't stay long.
Of course. Marinette nodded agreeably.
You can wait here or bring the plate up to his room.
Marinette was mildly surprised that Adrien was allowed to eat in his room. Gabriel seemed like the strict type who would only allow him to eat at the dining table. Gabriel raised his eyebrows.
Why do you look surprised? You'll find that I'm very lenient with my son, as long as he keeps fulfilling my expectations.
It was vaguely unsettling how easily he seemed to be able to read Marinette's thoughts. Then again, she didn't hide her emotions well. Adrien is so kind and well-behaved, Marinette praised. You've raised him very well, sir. Gabriel smiled superciliously.
Thank you.
With that, he turned and disappeared through the door. Marinette thought Adrien would prefer to eat in his room rather than the cold dining hall, so she took the plate and looked around with uncertainty. Though she knew very well how to get to Adrien's room from multiple visits, as Ladybug and for the play, she had only been there once with Natalie's consent and knew better than to make it obvious how well she knew her way around. Natalie appeared out of seemingly nowhere. This way, miss. She ushered Marinette toward the main staircase and up toward the east wing where Adrien's room was located. Not 10 minutes later, the door clicked open and Adrien collapsed directly onto his bed without even taking his duffel bag off his shoulder. Marinette looked up from reading Adrien's copy of Haruki Murakami's Kafka on the Shore, which she had been reading lightly to pass the time, and stood from the couch. Adrien yelped, leaping up in surprise. Sorry, Marinette cried, breaking out into laughter. I didn't mean to scare you. I thought Natalie would have told you I was here.
Oh my gosh,
he groaned, clutching his chest and collapsing into giggles himself.
No, she didn't say anything.
Regaining his composure, he crossed the room to pull his girlfriend into a hug.
Not that I'm in any way opposed to your presence, but what brings you here?
Your father invited me for dinner, Marinette admitted. Adrien stiffened.
He never told me about that.
He didn't? Marinette kept her arms around Adrien comfortingly, despite the fact that she could feel him wanting to pull away as he retreated emotionally. I thought you'd be there too. I texted you earlier, but I assumed you already knew what was going on, otherwise I would have told you more explicitly. Sorry. After a pause, Adrien relaxed a bit and responded.
It's okay, princess. I understand.
His hard tone said that even though he didn't blame Marinette, he was still ticked with his father for arranging the dinner without his knowledge. The kitchen prepared a plate for you. I brought it up. Your father wants to kick me out soon, but maybe we could watch an episode of Fruits Basket while you eat it? She grinned, lifting her eyebrows in a gently pleading expression.
Sure.
Adrien gave her a half smile. Yay! Plus, I have some good news. Go grab your plate. Marinette settled on the couch and waited for Adrien to join her. When he sat down, she twined her arm around his and kissed his cheek. Your father wants us to have dinner together every Thursday. Adrien's eyes nearly popped out of his head.
What? Are you kidding me? As in, he's going to be there?
Of course. I'm utterly 100% serious, she vowed, grinning. Of course, there will be some chat about fashion, but you, me, your father, sitting down together eating dinner every Thursday as a family. His words, not mine. Adrien let out an incredulous laugh, setting his plate down on the coffee table before tackling Marinette in a hug.
You're amazing, you know that? Do you know how long I've been trying to convince that man to have dinner with me?
I didn't do anything, Marinette mumbled. Adrien chased her words with a swift kiss to her lips.
Stop being humble. You're amazing, and that's final.
Thank you for listening to Chapter 27 of Carousel of Life. If you liked it, make sure to leave a like or a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe and click the bell to be notified of future updates. Until next time!